Hello, and welcome to On the Irregular with me, Java Berry, a podcast where I chat to women from all walks of life about their own unique creative journey, how they got here, how their story has shaped their creative work, what they've learned, what has helped them, and where they plan to go from here. It's an irregular journey for so many of us, and I am delighted to offer a platform to share these fascinating stories and wells of wisdom. This week, I'm chatting to TV camera operator and photographer Lyndsey Harris. As a camera op, Lyndsey has worked on productions such as Coronation Street, Wimbledon, and in my opinion, the most exciting of all, Stars in Their Eyes. When she's not filming, Lyndsey captures the world around her with her camera and a sharp documentary eye, honing in on the moments we often miss. We talk about growing up as a mixed-race child in an all-white council estate in Birmingham, the film that was the catalyst for her pursuing a career in visuals, and being a woman in an industry historically dominated by white men. A large theme was the internal battle between her drive and passion and often debilitating anxiety and imposter syndrome. May I introduce to you my dear friend and one of the odd parents to our children, Lyndsey Harris. A warning, this episode contains expletives.
I've got my tea, I've got my water, I'm ready.
Good. Would you like to start at the beginning in Birmingham? In what year were you born?
When I was born, 76, 45 years ago.
And do you want to talk me through a bit about your growing up, your family, and what that was like?
Yeah. So I'm the oldest of five, and we grew up in affordable housing in Birmingham. My mum and dad, they had a bit of a funny start in life, I suppose. My dad was born in Jamaica. He came over when he was 14, and came to a life that was already set out. His mum and dad had other siblings, other children, and his siblings he had to get to know and stuff. And my mum grew up in a convent, and she was there till she was about, I don't know, 12, 11, something like that. But they both ended up leaving home when they were 16, and living in these kind of affordable housing above it. My mum lived above him, and they met, and the way they talk about their life at that time is just really inspiring, actually. You know, I think about a 16-year-old and what I was like at 16. There's no way I could live alone. So they did that, and they met, and they had me when they were 20, which was quite young, really. And they were just kind of trying to make a way for themselves in the world, really. And my dad became a mechanic, and my mum looked after us, and so we grew up there. And then so that was the area that we lived in up until I was about 7. It was quite a kind of diverse area, really kind of multiple ethnicities and people from all different walks of life, but affordable housing. And then when I was 7, my mum and dad kind of wanted a better life, really, and kind of applied for an estate, which was a bit further out of Birmingham, on the outskirts of Birmingham, and that was a council estate, and I grew up there. But it was a bit of a culture shock, really, because it was a very white area, and my brother and I, my brother was kind of 4 at that point. He started school, I was at school, and it was just a culture shock in many ways, really. I can't really explain it. It was a very white area, for one, which we weren't used to. There was, like, I don't remember seeing any black or brown faces at all, and it was just like, oh wow. And I think my dad was pretty much the only black person on the estate at the time. It was a bit weird, really. And at school I struggled. It was a different system there, I think, in terms of schooling. Just a different setup. I felt like there was more creative elements at the school that I was at before. I was learning piano and doing different arty type stuff, and then we kind of came to this school, and it felt a bit dry, really, and a bit just very different. And we experienced some issues with racism, and my brother got into a lot of fights. I struggled to make friends, and yeah, it was a pretty hard time, actually. I mean, we eventually settled in and it was fine, obviously, but still, when I look back at photographs of that time when I was at school, like school trips and stuff, I kind of cringe, because I am the only black face on the photos, and I look so uncomfortable. I look so uncomfortable as a 9-year-old in my skin, and yeah, I find it quite hard to look at those photos, really, and think about some of that time. But generally my childhood was kind of lovely, and I think about summer times and being on bikes and being out with friends and things, and once all that settled, it was fine.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so you said a bit about, like, because I asked you, what was your dream when you were growing up, and you gave me the most diverse list of professions.
Yeah, I was a dreamer. Yeah, it's bizarre. Like, I think I put on there from air hostess at one point. God knows why. I think I just wanted to travel. I just wanted to be anywhere else, and kind of used to dream about different countries and things like that. And when I was young, we didn't really go on holidays abroad. I didn't experience that. We just about kind of went for days out, really, until a certain point, and then we go, caravan holidays and UK holidays and whatever. But I never went on a plane till I'm ashamed to say 20, I think, maybe 20, maybe 18, something like that. So yeah, I think that's where the air hostess thing came from. And I can't remember what else was on there. I can't remember.
Air hostess, lawyer, copper. I mean, all angles.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah, all angles. Yeah, I liked a little bit of travel. I want to help people. Yeah.
Singer-songwriter, that was another one.
A singer song, yeah, just small. Think small, Lyndsey. Don't think too big. Yeah, I don't know. And also at some point I wanted to act, and I didn't have the confidence to do that. And somebody tried to, a friend of the family tried to get me into this kind of local drama, not a school. It was more like a club, really. But there'd been a few actors that had come out of that, and and I just was petrified. I was absolutely petrified. I couldn't go. I couldn't walk in there. Like, I just saw all these children and I couldn't do it. But it was still something that I really wanted to do. And, I grew up in a very TV household. So TV was a big part of my life, really. And, I would see other children on Grange Hill or whatever and kind of want to be that. But yeah, I don't think that was for me. I did a few stints in plays at school, and that was quite good. I really enjoyed that. But I actually, thinking back now, I don't know why I didn't carry on with that, because I really enjoyed it. And I got all my family at one point, my nan, my aunts, everybody, to come to this school play, and they loved it. But
oh, that's
yeah,
so lovely. I didn't know that about you. That's so lovely.
Yeah, it's not something, I don't know. It's kind of like, I think it was more about just wanting to be in TV and film, really, rather than acting. I don't know. I
guess it's a kind of an accessible way of being part of that world and telling those stories, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know whether to tell this story, but
you have to.
Yeah, I know. I do now. My partner only found this out a couple of years ago, but this is how inaccessible the TV industry was to me. That in order to work in it, this is what I did to try and get into TV, rather than just, I don't know, going on a course or something. But do you remember the program The Big Breakfast?
Yeah.
Well, towards the end of The Big Breakfast, they were auditioning. They did like a national audition for a weather person. And I was like, I can do that. No experience in weather, no interest in weather, absolutely no experience in presenting. But I went to the audition, and it was in Birmingham. It was a massive audition. It was all these singers and bloody presenters and actors, like people singing in the halls and stuff like that. It was just me, like from a council stage, just like, yeah, I can do this. And I got in there, Java, I couldn't speak. Like literally no words came out, like in front of this guy and a weatherboard, didn't know anything. And it was just, I don't know why I did it. It was just like the worst
How old
experience.
were you?
I don't know, about 18 or something.
Oh my god! You see, what I love about this is that, like, you know, you've talked about like your lacking confidence in certain areas, but then
Yeah.
this like blind kind of
Yeah,
determination
I
to just
know.
like, I'm going to
It's
be a
so
weather
weird.
person.
Like I channeled this like crazy person who was just like crazy confident and like, yeah, and had all this experience. Like I had no experience, like zero experience. Well, like the only experience I had presenting was like being in the bath and pretending to present at like 10. I don't know, like what was I thinking? I don't
Oh, I
know.
love that. You know what? It was actually one of my dream jobs as a child to be a weather person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah. If I'd known about that bloody audition. And so then, so like, so going through school, how isn't you were saying that like the school before had felt more creative, and then this, you know, the one that you then went to felt dry. So that kind of indicates that you already had an inkling that you were interested in more creative areas, and that you were saying that you really enjoyed TV, and you mentioned MTV as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so that, you know, I guess, but did you just? It seemed like it was possibly an option for you. Did it
Yeah,
feel
I
like it
mean,
was an option?
I think towards I suppose when I think about that school, everything was music driven. There was a big choir that I was part of. I was learning piano. I was learning different instruments, and this is like 6 or 7, you know. And I loved it. And we didn't have those opportunities at the new school really. And well, if we did, I don't remember. I think the only time I remember singing was singing in assembly, and maybe we had. Did we have? I think I had a French teacher in junior school, and we learned to sing a song in French, you know, a few different songs. But I don't remember learning an instrument or anything like that. And it's weird. It's almost like if I didn't learn it at school, then I didn't think that I could possibly learn that in my own time or just kind of teach myself an instrument. I don't know. It didn't seem to kind of penetrate in that way. I don't know. And maybe I just didn't have those role models around me that were doing those things in their spare time. So I kind of thought that was accessible to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part. I think, and you know, seeing if you see people around you doing that, then it feels like a possibility. But if you don't, well, I guess where would you even begin in a way?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Although music was such a big part of our household, you know, my dad had such an eclectic collection of music from reggae to, I don't know, part of like, and my mum listened to like Rod Stewart and the Nolans and stuff like that, you know, like it was really eclectic. And I loved music. Music was like a massive part of my childhood. Like it was always on. My dad always had the first one to have a record player or, you know, a VHS recorder and stuff like that. He was always the first with technology and things. So it was such a massive part of my life. I don't really know why I didn't kind of carry on with that, but I knew that music was quite a big part of my life. And then obviously, like I said, MTV came into play in the 90s, and that was it. It just changed my life. And I know that sounds really ridiculous, but it actually did. You know, not only could you hear the music, you could see it and see the artists, see behind the scenes of television, which I'd never seen before. And I just fell in love with it. And I think seeing things like, I don't know, everything from Notorious B.I.G. to Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit video, that had a massive impact on me. You know, I see that video of Nirvana's, I kind of think about that time and how excited I was, you know, watching those things. And because I think after that, I fell in love with the idea of the music industry, I think, and kind of wanted to work within that. And I think I kind of said this to you, that I then, when I was working in a really dry job when I left school, I then went onto an evening course for audio engineering. I didn't do well in my GCSEs or anything like that, so I kind of had to find another way to, well, actually, I wasn't even doing it to go to university. I was doing it just for me, because I just needed something else and wanted to learn something else.
And so what was your dry job? Because you had several
Yeah,
dry
I
jobs.
had to, yeah. The last one was debt collecting, of all things. Yeah, I wanted to help people, but I got into a debt collecting job for about 4 years, which was horrendous. So
Wow.
yeah,
But you must have learned a lot of skills talking to people.
yeah, a lot of it was counselling, really. It was over the phone, and people would like cry. They would actually cry, or need help, and I found it really, really difficult to hit targets, and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, these are actually people, and yeah, I find it really difficult. But I kind of stuck it out for quite a while. But I think the thing that made me stick it out more than anything was during my time there, we had a project where we work for a client in another city. So we went to Leeds, and basically all of the offices from our organisation, so there was like Edinburgh, Manchester, Birmingham, that's it. And there was a select few people who kind of had the chance to go on this project and stay in a hotel in Leeds, do split shifts for this client. It was basically credit control, just like kind of collecting debts before they go to a debt collecting situation. Really boring, but fucking hell, it was fun. Oh my God. Oh my God, it was like, that was my university, really. I was 19, I think, 20, maybe 19, 20. And my God, we had fun, and we'd stay in each other's rooms and listen to music and talk about art, talk about everything, really. And just kind of, I met my first girlfriend there. It was amazing. Like, it was a really amazing experience.
Wow.
Um,
Sounds like a playground.
oh, it was amazing. I really can't explain it. Like, when I went to university, I was actually like, oh, this is quite boring. But yeah, I met my first girlfriend there, and kind of spent some time in Edinburgh on the back of that, and just I guess meeting different people. I suppose up until that point, I'd lived not a sheltered life, but I hadn't met a lot of people from different cities, or who were into different genres of music necessarily, or and you just kind of put together in this hotel with lots of different people, and yeah, I just learned a lot. I think I learned a lot of life skills and a lot about myself during that time.
And do you think it gave you a confidence to then pursue other paths?
Yeah, I think that on the back of that, when that project finished, it went on for about, I think it was about 18 months or something, and we were all gutted. It was just like the ending of life. And on the back of that, I think I pretty much then enrolled on a night course, because I needed something else. I couldn't carry on doing what I was doing. I did the night course, did that for a year, and really enjoyed that, and thought, right, what do I do now? I could go on another course. Oh, there's a media course at the same college. Thought about that. It was full time. Could I do that? Decided to do it. Sacked off my job. Worked evenings. Did that full time. And then I think it was during that course I kind of fell in love with visuals, and my love of, well, it was kind of the two together, really, the two combined, music and visuals. But I kind of started falling in love with camera work and cinematography, really. We went out on a college day out to a local independent cinema, which I'd never been to before. I'd never been to anything but a multiplex, really, or experienced anything but, you know, big blockbuster films. And we went to see a film called The Ratcatcher by Lynn Ramsey. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I don't think I have.
Oh, Java, you have to see it. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's been films made since that, you know, probably it doesn't have the same impact, but it fucking blew my mind. Wow. And I can't tell you, it just, I'd never seen anything like it, I guess. And that was it. I was just in love, really.
Wow. I love those moments. I love those, like, one piece of artwork or one moment, one day that your life just pivots.
Yeah. And it really did, you know, just, I mean, it's really grim. It's a really grim film, but I don't think I'd seen anything on the big screen that depicted poverty and living in a certain way, you know, in a certain kind of class, but the visuals on top of that were just like, they're just stunning. Like, for her debut film, and the fact that she was a female director, I'd never heard of a female director before at that point. It was a first film, and I was just like, fucking hell, I want that. I want to do that, you know. And at this point, I hadn't even thought about university. It's not something that was even in my mind accessible to me, or just like something that I would do, or people around me did, really, necessarily, you know. But I did a temp job, another job that I absolutely hated, in an office. And there was a girl there also doing a kind of summer job, and she'd taken a few years out. She was a bit younger than me still, but I think at this point I was 23. And she was going to university, and she was kind of like, she really pushed me. She was like, you've done this course now, like, you can do this. Like, you could actually go to university if you wanted to. You don't have to carry on doing these jobs. And it really made me think. And I was just like, oh, maybe I could. And I spoke to my tutors and things, and I did it. I kind of enrolled in a few places, got a lot of knockbacks because I wanted to do quite a practical course, obviously, you know, being camera work, or, you know, kind of technical elements of TV and film. And I didn't have the physics and maths, which is really annoying. And then kind of took my, I don't know, fifth choice, Salford University. So I went.
And if you hadn't gone to Salford, we may have never met.
No, exactly. Yes.
That's where you met John.
Yeah. And I had a great time there as well. But
wow.
Yeah.
And so when you were there, did you have an idea of kind of how you were going to come out and move into the industry? Because were there many female camera ops?
No. No, there was actually, when I went to my interview, she's quite notorious actually, but I'm not going to mention her name, but there was a tutor, a female tutor who used to work in the industry, and she was very negative. She put everybody off and kind of say, I don't know why you applied for this. You might as well do something else, because you're never going to get anywhere. Like everyone. Like,
that sounds like me talking to wannabe actors. Do something else. Anything else.
Yeah, just do anything else. Yeah. And for some reason I still carried on. And actually, you know, in some ways she was kind of perfectly right. You know, it is hard and it isn't easy, and everyone goes into courses and into the industry thinking, oh, I'm going to be a director, or I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, and actually it doesn't often happen, you know. So I think it was a bit extreme, but she was just kind of, you know, making sure everyone had got their expectations in the right place, really, I think. But yeah, that was a great course. And, you know, I think even still at that point, I didn't really believe that I'd be a camera operator. I knew I wanted to work in the industry. I knew I had a love for visuals and stuff like that. But there was a lot of boys on the course who were a lot more confident than me. knew a lot more than me apparently, and they would always kind of veer towards cameras, or like the kind of the rock star roles in university, kind of projects and stuff. So I still kind of didn't know at that point really. I think that was more about confidence more than anything, to be honest. I knew what I was interested in. I knew, I ended up doing my dissertation on certain types of cameras. And when I did that, I did my report based on a satellite channel at Granada TV.
Oh, wow.
So, well, it's not wow. It's not necessarily wow.
I don't even know what a satellite channel is.
Well, the satellite channel that I kind of did it for was Men and Motors, Java. Yeah. You know what that consists of. Actually, it was more about the motors when I went to it, but it's like kind of car program.
What a choice! What an interesting choice.
Yeah, it was either that or news, really, or something, like that. But so it was more about the cameras that they were using and the way in which they used them. So I kind of did that and went out with them, did a bit of voluntary work, I guess, on the back of that, or as well as doing my dissertation. I was kind of like, working for free as well. And it was great fun. They were great to me and really helpful. But on the back of that, I kind of kind of engineered it. So I got some free work in Granada TV, not just the satellite channel. And my first job as an assistant, a very nervous assistant, was on Stars in Their Eyes.
Lyndsey, that is the most exciting fact I've ever heard about you.
It was amazing. Like, I walked in, there's like Kat Deedy there, and and all these cameramen that just like obviously been doing it for a long time. And now all of them are my colleagues, but
wow.
Just very nervous. And the guy that I work with very often now, the first thing he said to me is, "Do you know how to 8 a cable?" I was like, "No." I don't know what that is. What is it? And it was just like literally putting a cable into a figure of 8. That's it. So it's easy. It's like an easy thing. I didn't even know that. And that's like rule number 1. And he was so sweet, actually. And he's a really nice guy. He just showed me, didn't say anything, just showed me how to do it, really showed me the ropes. It's like this big studio, big light, smoke everywhere. It's like great.
Wow.
So,
that must have been so exciting.
It was really exciting. And this was one of the programs that, I would watch with my parents or with my friends or whatever, just like, oh, I'd love to be on Stars in the Rise. If only got to sing, and then I'd go on, and just watched it all, every single series of it. So to be on it was just like crazy, really. It's just like really amazing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So then how did things progress from there?
I think at that point, Granada didn't really have like assistants as such. It was like I was in the kind of stagehand department, so I was like with the blokes, they didn't really have like designated assistants.
So I was going to ask you about that, because you were saying there are lots of boys at uni. So I imagine was it a mainly male?
I mean,
work?
I don't think I can recall one female operator at that point.
Wow.
No, actually, there was one woman on another show, Coronation Street. But that she was literally the only person.
And how did it stand up in terms of diversity?
No.
Wow. So a bunch of white men.
Yeah, pretty much. And it has got a lot better. More so with ITV and other kind of channels down south. There's more diversity there, but I mean it's much better now. I kind of, but still,
it's really interesting that you talk about. You often talk about your lacking confidence or imposter syndrome, and all of these that I know so many of us feel, but I feel like you really carry the weight of it. But then you've put yourself in situations that to me sound really like out of your comfort zone, which would suggest some kind of inner confidence and feeling like, well, it's your right to be there.
Or stupidity. just throw myself into situations that I can't cope with, but I obviously can cope with. But yeah,
You really can, yeah.
I mean, there must be something there, you know. I kind of, imposter syndrome, I feel that it's just kind of followed me throughout my life, really. I just kind of, but yeah, it's weird. It's like I want that thing, but at the same time, it's like even you saying that, then that is just me being lucky. It's just luck, you know. They didn't have anyone else, or they're a bit desperate, or you know, whatever. I don't know. Like that's what it's goes on in my mind. It's not necessarily down to my skill base, really. Do you know what I mean?
So you think that every single thing in your whole career is down to luck, and that there was just always a worse option than you?
Yeah.
In what is that, like 20 years? A 20-year career?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I
think that's really likely, yeah.
It is crazy, isn't it? Like when you actually think about it, and I kind of talk to my friends sometimes and talk about, you know, how I got where I am, and it is silly. I mean, I don't want to kind of put myself down, but it is silly. Like obviously it's based on skill. It must be based on skill. It's based on something, you know. And I'm sure I wasn't always the best option. You know, there's always someone better than you. There's always someone younger than you, more confident than you, or whatever. But maybe people saw something else in me. At times, you know, maybe my personality or whatever. You know, I think I get by on my personality more than my skill base. And I think that's what goes on in my mind more than anything, is that I'm good with people. So therefore, because I get on with you, like that's why you've employed me.
I mean, but that is also a huge part of work, though. You know, I think it's easy to dismiss that, but I think it's a really huge element, because however skilled somebody might be, if you can't work with them, then it's pointless.
Totally.
So I think that is actually a really strong attribute.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, there's something in me as a woman, and as a person of colour. I kind of feel like no, I want it to be based on my skill. I want to be better. I want to be better than those people, you know.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
get what you
I
mean. But I mean, you've worked on some really quite high profile. I mean, you've
Yeah.
worked in Coronation Street, Lyndsey. That's very important to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And I think, you know, to give myself credit, I think it's only in the past few years, you know, I've had a bit of therapy, and quite a bit of therapy, and kind of try to understand the way in which my mind works in that way, and kind of just work through that, I guess. And you know, talking to people, and just doing the job. You know, I think I decided at a certain point, right, Lyndsey, you've got to stop saying no to stuff in your mind, you know, or putting barriers in the way. Just do it. Just see what happens. Do it. And that is actually the only way that I've progressed. And in the past few years, I've seen that progression. And, you know, I work on live shows. I work on, you know, quite fairly high pressured stuff, I guess. And, you know, I think it's only now that I believe that I am in the role that I should be, or, you know, I am doing this. You know, this is, I'm a camera operator, but I still have massive problems with when people say, what do you do for a living? I'm just like, oh, I work in TV, and just like mumble. I don't really like showing off about it. I don't do that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I was thinking about this when I was kind of, before I came on, and just, I don't know, I just I don't know whether there's been nothing in my background, or, you know, kind of like where you have to keep yourself small or not show off or anything like that. I mean, my dad's a massive show off, my brother's a massive show off, like it's in our family. But I just I don't know, really. It must be a confidence thing, or
yeah. Do you not want to make people feel? Do you not want to draw attention to yourself? Because there is a thing. I remember talking to Emma Crumpton about this in an episode in the first season. She was talking about the status that just working in TV or film brings. As soon as you say that you work in that, people go, ooh, you know, which is possibly different to other professions. You know, you don't really
Absolutely.
get that reaction.
Much to my partner's annoyance when we're anywhere. It's like somebody asks her what she does and then asks me, oh, right, what do you work on? And it's like, bye, not speaking to you anymore. Yeah. No, there is a massive kind of status with it, you know, and don't get me wrong, I feel a massive amount of pride, you know, and I don't often let myself feel that, but I do feel it. And, you know, to a certain extent, being a freelancer and working in this industry, it's a massive part of my identity and my ego. And that's quite a difficult thing to balance, really. When you're asked for and you're working constantly and you can't say no. And I've realized recently that it kind of taps into my ego in a lot of ways, like, oh, I'm being asked for, you know, but actually I'm not doing that work-life balance thing. And I kind of need to find a way of living a bit more harmoniously that way, you know. Because
do you think that you're, because of course, you know, you've always been to visuals and photography, and it feels like you've kind of been taking that a lot more seriously over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you think that's part of trying to find that balance?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I do love my job, but I think sometimes you know, like everybody needs change, and I think, you know, I think with my job, it is creative and it is there's a lot of adrenaline involved in it and stuff like that, but I don't know, I feel like I need something for me, really. And I think I've always been interested in photography, but never really taken that seriously in terms of buying a proper camera, just like iPhones or, you know, like kind of point and shoot cameras and things, just because it's easier. And I think it was only during lockdown, actually, that I was able to think about just take time out, you know, like everybody had to. Like there was nothing else to think about. And I did a couple of photography courses. I just thought, right, well, there's nothing else to do. I need to keep my mind going and maybe have something in the pipeline or something else to fall back on in the future. But mainly just for my pleasure, really, and just to see what came of it. And I did a couple of one course with the Melias, who you know of, and that was amazing. I really, really enjoyed that. I did that with my partner, actually. She's quite into photography and fairly talented as well, but again, didn't take that route and kind of lacks confidence. But we both did that and got a lot from it. And then I went on another 2 courses, actually, with your good friend Laura Adams, and I think that at that point it was a bit of a switch for me, really. I think she, even though photography and video or television, you know, video cameras are very, very similar, there's differences. I don't come from a stills background, so I learned a lot about stills photography, you know, technically and stuff, and there was just a lot of depth to her course, and I just learned a lot. But mainly I think it was about the community that I met there. You know, there's a lot of amazing people on there that it was just so uplifting, I think, you know, and I don't want to kind of say that, you know, it was that way because of my ego, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, got loads of praise for different photos or whatever, but it was a bit of that. And it was just, I think I'm in an industry that it's not that ruthless, actually. People think it's ruthless and it's just a bit, you know, kind of
ruthless and cutthroat.
That's it, that's the one. But it's not actually. My experience of it has been really, really good, and I've worked with some really fantastic people who uplift you, but I think this was just uplifting in a different way, and the pressure was off, and I got to know what my eye was, really, because, you know, working on the shows that I work on, a lot of them are really established shows. You don't get chance to necessarily put your own take on it or be creative in that way. It's more technical, you know. And with photography, it's all about you, you know, whatever you want to take a picture of, whatever you feel like that day, your mood kind of impacts on it, you know, the light, anything. And I got so much from it, you know, just kind of going out for days and just taking pictures, and mainly of shopping trolleys, as you know. Yeah.
No one takes a photo of a shopping trolley like you do, Lyndsey.
I mean, I quickly realised on this course that I was very different to a lot of people on the course in terms of photography. And yeah, I think in some ways that made me feel a little bit like, oh God, you know, a lot of people from the course have gone on to start businesses or go into wedding photography and stuff like that. And I'm not really sure that's for me, but I'm still trying to find what it is that is.
You have quite a documentary style, don't you?
Yeah.
And like, it makes me think quite often of like Martin Parr.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's a massive influence. You know, like I love that kind of. I love that storytelling through just everyday things, just everyday situations. I love it. And you know, obviously, I've got an interest in the working class and stuff like that. So that's where my photography kind of goes, really. Just the beautiful things that exist just in every day, I suppose. And just those things that kind of go missed, you know, those little shafts of light or those little kind of shadows on a building that no one, well, you know, some people see, a lot of people see, but, you know, just kind of capturing that, because it, you know, when the sun goes in, that's gone. That's it, it's gone. And he just kind of documenting that and just seeing that for that moment and having that moment, I'm really into it.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And it made me think, you talking about the storytelling, and because you and I share a passion for TV, and we're often talking about shows that we're watching and going into depth about it. And so that makes sense, you know, what you're saying about how you grew up and TV was a really big part of, you know, what you did as a family and the stories within that. And then you went on to work, like you say, you know, in debt collection, and then you were hearing stories, people's stories.
Yeah.
And now your way of channeling and telling those stories is through your camera.
And I think it's always been a bit about stories, actually. When I look back, like when I was a kid, I didn't really like being around other kids. Like I wanted to be around adults and talk to them, you know, and that's what I enjoyed. Like I found kids a bit boring, I suppose, like a little bit. I wanted to be one of the adults. And I think that's a similar thing. Like even in my jobs, you know, they were boring. What's the word? You know what I mean? I just like that. It's just not a chambermaid. Like, oh my God, I was by myself. I hated it. Like cleaning other people's crap. No, thank you. Put me in a restaurant or a bar and speak to people every day. Great. You know, I got a lot from that. I get loads from, you know, there's that thing of filling your glass, you know, if you're around people and you kind of fill your glass with, you know, stories and but yeah, so and it's always been a theme, I think, you know, even at work now, you know, you got to get a lot of downtime, and just like sometimes I feel like I interview people, but I'm just so interested in people and their situations or stories, really. And
I think that's what probably something that we share, and why I always love talking to you, because I think we're both quite inquisitive about things, and kind of dissecting and breaking things down and finding the story in things. And
I just find it interesting, you know, and that's another thing, you know, with the confidence element. Like my partner always says to me, like, you know, you go on about your confidence, but you can go into a bar and you just like chat to people. And I was like, well, I don't really see that as confident. Like I'm actually interested. I'm interested in that person in that moment, you know.
So then any kind of doubts is just drops away because you're too distracted in a way.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. and being in that moment, you kind of don't think about it too much, you know. And I suppose in photography, when I'm out taking photographs or chatting to people in Blackpool when they're asking me what I'm doing or whatever, I'm just like, in that moment, there's no ego, and there's no self-awareness, I guess. I'm just in that moment.
It's just,
and that's
you.
what I love about it, I think. And don't get me wrong, like when I post some of my photos on Instagram or, you know, show other people, oh my God, like I'm obviously, like, it takes me ages to post anything because I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want the feedback on it, or I don't know if it's any good, or, you know, I'm still starting out with that. And I have experienced massive amounts of anxiety in terms of my, you know, my work and my life. And sometimes I struggle with photography. You know, I've got an eye condition that kind of caused me a lot of anxiety and probably nearly ended my career in TV, really. And a lot of anxiety came on the back of that. So I struggle, you know, I don't find it as easy. It takes me ages to edit. It takes me ages to do anything, really, because my anxiety and the anxiety, the experience, and the confidence that I sometimes lack does debilitate me, you know. But I think the passion and the drive and that fire that I feel sometimes, a lot of the time, overrides that. I'm still learning. I'm still, you know, I've had therapy for it, and, you know, done various alternative therapies, hypnotherapy, acupuncture, loads of stuff. But, you know, I think I'm just kind of finding myself now. I'm 45, and just kind of now, I don't know, in comfortable shoes, and just kind of like finding the right path, I think. And just see where that takes me. But, you know, it's not easy. You know, I still have to kind of fight that anxiety all the time, even now. Like, I'm still thinking about a shot that I missed 4 months ago. No one else is thinking about it on a live show, you know, just like it's gone. But I still think about that stuff, and I still give myself grief. I'm my own worst critic in a lot of ways, you know.
Well, I feel incredibly grateful that there's like, I see it as like, because you keep on saying like that inner fire, that there's that fire Lyndsey that manages to push through that and go to the audition to be a weather person.
Yeah, even if it debilitates you into the point of not speaking, yeah, the fire's there. Yeah.
That's so interesting. That's a real battle, and it's like, which one's going to win? Which part of me is going to win? Is it going to be my passion, or is it going to be the anxiety? But it really sounds like I think give yourself a lot of credit for feeling that discomfort and the fear and the worry and the self-criticism, and then still going ahead and doing it.
Absolutely. And
that's like you said, it can be debilitating.
Totally. And I still think about that little Lyndsey, you know, watching Grey and Chill and whatever, you know, kind of the stars in her eyes, and just like, oh yeah, okay, I have come a long way, you know. It might not have been the easiest path, and still isn't, but yeah, I think the fact that I do have that passion, and I think generally that is what gets people to positions that they want to be in, is that fire, you know. It isn't necessarily, it shouldn't really necessarily be about qualifications or anything like that. It should be just about people's passions and just their commitment to something, you know, commitment to creativity.
Yeah. Oh God, that's such a lovely way to round it off.
Do you think? I feel like I've rambled absolute shit.
Really? Not one bit. Not at all. It's been really lovely. It's felt like quite a tender, gentle chat.
Okay.
And I feel like it's been really lovely getting to know young Lyndsey as well. Because, you know, you don't get to meet your friends when they're kids.
No, I guess you don't. No.
So it's really lovely, unless you've known them all their life. But if you meet someone as an adult, it's really lovely to hear a bit more about who they were before
Yeah.
before they grew.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But and I really, really appreciate that you've spoken as well about like about the kind of the mental health side of it and the anxiety, because I think it's a really huge thing, especially doing the Say It Out Loud workshop and
Mm.
talking to the women. It's such a huge thing that so many women share, and I think, you know, there's the danger of um I guess they call it toxic positivity, all right, you know,
Mm.
just go for it, just do it. And like they're definitely, I think that is a really valuable kind of idea to cling on to, but I think we need to also just really talk about the nuances of how debilitating, how paralyzing you know, that anxiety and that imposter syndrome can be.
Absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
more we share about it, the more we kind of go, oh right, so you feel that too, and you feel that too. Okay, so what the hell? Why are we all feeling this? You
Yeah.
know, when you think that
And I
you're,
wonder how many, you know, we're talking about women specifically, I think, but I'm sure other people, you know, experience imposter syndrome, but I think it's a really big problem within women. And I think, you know, it comes down to a lot of women not being told by their parents or people around them the same things that boys are when they're growing up. You know, boys they can achieve anything, and girls are supposed to be more caring, or, you know, a bit more tender, and not kind of go for things in that same aggressive, or, you know, it's classed as aggressive, but, you know, in that kind of forthright way, you know. And I think it's really important for women to talk about it, because I wonder how many women actually give up their dreams because of feeling like this, and don't get to the places that they want to be, or, you know, not even giving up dreams, but, you know, just say goodbye to creativity and become a, you know, kind of embrace motherhood more, or, you know, life a bit more, and don't follow those creative paths because they just don't feel worthy, or don't feel good enough, or, yeah, don't have other people around them that kind of, you know, uplift them in that way. You know, some of the communities that we've had experience with, and that's really sad. I think it's really, really worrying and really sad that people wouldn't continue doing things that they really love because they don't feel good enough, or they feel like a fake, you know.
yeah, yeah, completely. And I think also, you know, I think it's interesting what you're talking about, you know, being a woman, but also being a woman of color
Mm,
in an industry where you're not seeing yourself represented, then that's going to heighten that feeling, understandably, even more.
absolutely. I mean, I suppose, you know, even as a kid, like, and obviously that was in the 70s and 80s, but there wasn't much representation. We had, like, I don't know, Fowella Benjamin,
Yeah.
and I don't know who else was there.
The news reporter,
Yes.
I can't remember her
Um,
name, but
do you mean Moira Stewart,
Moira
or
Stewart.
yeah? And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, and they didn't really feel like me either. Like, there was no representation of me, you know. And as a mixed race, person, there was not a lot of representation, you know, in a positive way, you know. Um, it was difficult, you know. It's difficult, and I don't know, like, what do you strive for as a child if you don't see yourself around, you know, in high profile jobs, or even on TV or whatever, doing things that everybody else does? What does that mean for a child? What do you strive for? Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one, really. And I think then, you know, what you did see more of was men in certain roles in TV, and not women of colour. And yeah, even, you know, some of the roles in TV are still, you know, fixed to gender, not actually fixed to gender, but, you know, obviously there's a lot more female PAs or female makeup artists, or, you know, but that is changing. You know, there's a lot of male makeup artists, a lot of, you know,
right.
it is changing, but it's slow. It's so slow. But it's slow across the world. It's not just within those industries, you know.
And I guess it's going to take generations, I suppose, because then it's going to take another generation of people to see themselves represented in those roles, to then grow up and go into those roles, you know, and
Absolutely.
see that it's possible.
I mean, if I'd seen people like me, and I'm not just talking about a person of colour or a woman, but also somebody who represents a different kind of gender identity, I guess. Like you know, I identify as female, and, you know, but I'm a gay woman. I don't look like your typical woman, I guess. And if I'd seen,
Or a typical woman that the TV suggests
exactly, yes,
what a woman should look like. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And if I'd seen people represented in a positive way, you know, when I was younger, I mean, what could I have achieved? What could everybody achieve if they see people that look like them on TV? And I think it's really important. Again, there's obviously programs, you know, about gay people and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's just it's so few and far between, and so put in a box. You know, it's so like, oh, this is a gay program. It's like, right, we need to see a bit of fluidity here. We need to see a bit of mixture. You know, more gay people represented in television, in every program. And I know soaps are doing that and whatever, but yeah, it still feels, what's the word, like a ticking box exercise. I think there just needs to be a bit more kind of, what's the word,
Like flooding
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just, and I don't mean, you know, I don't mean having, I know a lot of, on the back of Black Lives Matter, there was a lot of kind of, the TV industry tried to do certain things. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it feels like all one way. And actually, what I was saying to my colleagues was, it's like, why does it have to be one way or another? Just like, nobody wants that one way or the other. It creates other problems. You know, what we actually want, what everybody wants, is equality. You know, the same amount of people represented, you know, of colour as there are white people, or, you know, like, not this kind of massive necessarily flooding one way, just
Yeah.
just like an integration. Like, that's what everybody surely wants. You know, I don't know, there's so many different areas that we could talk about, but, you know, even down to, I don't know, Idris Elba being, you know, dubbed, you know, what's the word, possibly the next James Bond, and people just in absolute outrage about it. It's like, why? Like, I don't understand that. But I do feel like there's more programs now. I don't know whether I'm seeking them out a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know, maybe having these discussions is a good thing, because people can think about that a little bit more, whether they think that there's more programs are predominantly black actors or black writers or out there, or whether I'm just seeking them out a bit more. I don't know, but
I think I've definitely noticed an increase. I think that,
yeah,
yeah, and it feels like it's like there's been a couple of things on the BBC lately that have just kind of been billed as just a drama, and it
yes,
doesn't feel like, it's not like black issues.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like it's just a story about people.
yeah, totally. And I think in the film industry as well, there's a like a multitude of new directors coming, you know, and they're fucking brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if I had known, when I was at college that time, you know, along with Lynn Ramsey, I'd seen a film by I can't remember her fucking name now, DuVernay, can't remember her first name. Anyway, she's a a female director of colour, and there's a few women that are now mostly in America, which is disappointing, but and men of colour. Steve McQueen is an outstanding director, like he's amazing, and so there is some really good stuff out there at the moment, but it'd be quite interesting to know whether I am seeking it out, because that is quite disappointing, I guess, if I am seeking it out and kind of grabbing at the odd film, or whether they are actually more mainstream now. I don't know. I think about sometimes, it does take longer. It has taken longer for Black people to come up in the ranks and stuff, but I'm also fully aware that I've got to where I've got to. Not that I'm a director or anything like that, but and I'm fully aware of my light privilege as well. I would identify as a Black person, but my skin is a lot lighter. And is that more palatable? I don't know. Has that been easier for me in some ways? I don't know. And that's something I've become very aware of recently, and kind of thinking about light privilege, and on the back of, Black Lives Matter, all the issues that we kind of faced a couple of years ago, that we've always experienced, but, that came to light, recently. And I just kind of become more aware of light privilege, and as opposed to white privilege, and it seems that it's now, I think it's always been a bit more palatable, hasn't it, in mainstream society, mixed race people, lighter skinned Black people within film and TV and whatever. And actually now it's like people like Steve McQueen and Ava DuVernay, that's a name. Well done. Ava DuVernay, there's people, of all sorts of shades within their films and TV programs, and rightly fucking so. Come on, Unfortunately, my grandparents kind of passed away last year, so I'll never have that Windrush story. But hopefully, I can get it through my dad's, kind of some of it, or maybe some of their friends and older relatives or whatever. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. If I've learned anything, it's going to be not to put stuff like that off,
Yeah, stuff that's been on the back burner, put it forward.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd like to do a bit more, in terms of photography in that field as well, I think,
I'd be really interested to see.
Yeah, because I think it's really hard as well. I don't know, there's not a lot of higher profile people in the mainstream, photographers, that unless I just don't know about them, I don't know, but it doesn't seem as accessible to photographers that are solely photographing Black skin in a way, in the mainstream, and just kind of an understanding that, obviously there's models and various other actors and whatever, but I kind of like to see more of that in photography as well, I think. And I've kind of been thinking about a little project of my own in that way, but we'll see.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. I really want to hear more about that. Brilliant.
And if you Java, genuinely, if you don't think this,
Lyndsey, shut up. I'm not even entertaining this bullshit.
Just I don't know, the imposter syndrome kicked in, and just oh my God, why does Java want to talk to me? Look at all these creative people that she's talked to. I don't even have an Instagram presence. What the fuck? Why does she want to speak to me? But
You can find Lyndsey's photography work on Instagram at allfromthelefTeye, where she shares her own unique way of seeing the world through her lens. Please refer to the show notes for links. Thank you so much for listening to On the Irregular. Please make sure you review and subscribe, as it helps other listeners find us.